So our second example is going to be H2SO4. Okay? And then we're going to make our T-chart. And the first thing we're going to do is count our elements. Okay? We have hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. Okay, so I just counted my elements for this chemical formula. We have hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. Now I'm going to count how many atoms I have. Okay, how many atoms of hydrogen are there? So because there's a 2 subscript that's behind hydrogen, that subscript tells us that we have 2 atoms of hydrogen. Okay, and how many atoms of sulfur do we have? 1 atom of sulfur. And then oxygen has a subscript of 4. So we have 4 atoms of oxygen. Our total elements are 3. 3 different elements. But we have a total of 2 plus 1 plus 4, 7 atoms. 3 total elements, 7 total atoms in this whole chemical formula, okay? So what is a chemical compound? What is a compound? Y'all answer that for me in the chat. A compound is 2 or more elements that are chemically bonded together. And we represent compounds with chemical formulas, okay? What you see right here is a chemical formula, and it's telling us that potassium, nitrogen, and oxygen have bonded together. So let's do our T-chart. Pretty impressed with that straight line. Not the second one, the first one. Our first step is to list our elements. So we have potassium, which is the letter K. And remember, we're focusing on the capital letters. Nitrogen, which is a capital N. Oxygen, which is a capital O. Okay? All right, so when we don't have a subscript like potassium, there's no number here. That means there is only 1 atom. And the nitrogen right here has no subscript also, so that means there is only 1 atom of that. Oxygen does have a subscript, so that tells me that there are 3 total atoms of oxygen in this compound. So we have 3 different elements, but we have 5 total atoms. 3, 4, 5. 5 total atoms. Okay? Okay, so our fourth example is CaCl2, calcium chloride, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a minute. I want you to try this on your own, okay? And then I will go over it. All right, my turn. So I'm going to make my T-chart. And we do our elements first. Capital letters only. So Ca is 1 element. Calcium. Cl is 1 element. Chlorine. Okay? Calcium has no subscript, so that tells me that I have 1 atom. Chlorine has a subscript of 2, so it tells me I have 2 atoms. This gives me 2 total elements in this chemical formula and 3 total atoms. Okay? So I want you guys to remind me of the analogy I gave you about the difference between elements and atoms. How are elements and atoms different? How are we going to remember elements versus atoms? Okay, so what I like to say, and I actually stole this from Miss Phillips, is that your elements are your ingredients. So this compound is made up of calcium and chlorine, but the atoms are the amount of those ingredients. So for this compound, you need calcium and chlorine, but you need 1 calcium and 2 chlorines. Does that make sense? So our elements are our ingredients. It's what makes up the compound. And then our atoms are how much of those ingredients we need. So for calcium chloride, we need 1 atom of calcium and 2 atoms of chlorine. Here's our last example. We're going to make our T-chart. We have elements and atoms. We have carbon, and we have hydrogen. This subscript tells me I have 2 carbons. And this subscript tells me I have 6 hydrogens. Okay? So we can almost do it like that. This is 1, and this is 1. You have 2 total elements, 2 total ingredients, but there are 8 atoms. 8 atoms. You need 8 parts of these 2 ingredients. Okay? All right. We're going to try a more difficult example for you guys. We have Mn parenthesis BrO3 parenthesis 2. What did I say about parentheses and subscripts? What do you do when you have a subscript outside of parentheses? Okay, so when we have parentheses, we have to distribute. So I'm going to write my elements first, capital M, N. Then I have Br, which I believe is bromine. And then we have oxygen. Okay? I'm going to distribute this subscript into the parentheses. Distribute and distribute. Now when I distribute this 2 to everything inside the parentheses, you're essentially multiplying. So remember, when we don't have a subscript here, it means 1. Okay? And then 2 times 3. So when you distribute, you multiply. So we have no subscript for Mn, so that means we have 1 atom. Bromine, because we distributed this 2, means we have 2 atoms of bromine. We distributed our 2 to this 3, and we multiplied them, meaning we have 6 oxygens. Okay, so we have 3 total elements, but we have 9 total atoms. Okay, 9 total atoms. You guys have 1 atom of carbon and 2 atoms of oxygen. What does this look like as a chemical formula? All right, so this looks like 1 atom of carbon, so we just write the chemical symbol for carbon, and 2 atoms of oxygen, so we write our chemical symbol for oxygen with a subscript of 2. We don't write a subscript of 1, so that's what carbon dioxide looks like. We have 1 atom of calcium, we have 1 atom of carbon, and we have 1 atom, no, excuse me, 3 atoms of oxygen. Okay? All right, so the way this looks is we have 1 atom of calcium. So the chemical symbol for calcium is a capital C, a lowercase a. Then we have 1 atom of carbon. So we draw the letter C for carbon. 3 atoms of oxygen, capital O with a subscript of 3. Okay? So this is how we take the number of atoms and the element and we create a chemical formula for it.